Alane Adams here. We are back with Read Along with Alane, and we are reading from The Blue Witch. Now, so far, we've read the prologue and chapters 1 and 2. Now, guys, I hope you are following along with the worksheets as well. There's all kinds of fun activities and things to do with each chapter, as well as the actual PDF files of each chapter as we're reading them that you can access as well. All you got to do is click the link in the video description. It's right there for you. So today we're going to pick up with chapter 3. Now, we left off with Abigail running for her life away from Indira and her two cronies, and they get all the way out to the jukeberry tree in the garden, and Indira's really about to give her a zap when all of a sudden there's a voice in the tree and he says stop, and there's a boy, and Indira zaps him and he falls right onto the ground at their feet. Now, this chapter is going to pick up in the boy's point of view, which means he's going to be the one telling the story for this chapter, all right? So here we go, chapter 3. This was bad. Hugo picked himself up, spitting out bits of grass. If only he'd kept his big mouth shut, he wouldn't be stuck in the middle of a witch battle. "Who are you?" the lead bully asked. Hugo brushed off his palms and pushed his glasses firmly into place. "My name is Hugo Suppermill. I order you to leave this girl alone or face the consequences." The witchling sneered. "You're just a Belgian boy from town. You don't belong on Tarkana property, so get lost before I zap your ears off." "Go on," the witchling next to him urged in a low voice. "I can handle them." Hugo was fond of his ears, but he refused to be seen as a coward. Reaching into his pocket, he drew out the medallion he'd taken from his brother Eminor's coat pocket that morning. The polished flint disc hung on a silver chain and was carved with strange symbols. Eminor claimed a witchling had given it to him and filled it with magic. As a scientist in training, Hugo had been skeptical magic was real. He'd heard stories about the witches, of course, but he'd never actually seen magic up close. But ever since Hugo had scoffed at Eminor's claims, strange things had happened. Like when Hugo had gone to turn in his maths homework the next day, and the neatly penciled columns of numbers had vanished, as if an invisible eraser had wiped them clean. Hugo had tried writing his answers in ink, but the same thing had happened. Now, Hugo was failing maths thanks to Eminor's trickery. But instead of being mad, Hugo was fascinated. He had taken to hiding in the jukeberry tree, listening in on witchlings practicing spells, and writing everything down in his pocket journal. Someday he would understand the secret to how magic worked. Gripping the chain, he swung the disc side to side. Eminor hadn't said how it worked exactly. Was it going to shoot out magic? The trio of bullies stepped back, looking unsure. But when nothing happened, a smile came over their faces. "Blast him," their leader said. The three witchlings raised their hands, drawing them in a circle, and muttered some words. Words! That was it! He must need to say a spell. But which one? Hugo tried to recall his notes. "Any time," the witchling by his side muttered. He said the first thing that came to him. "Fine Kinter Ventimus." A jolt ran up his arm as a sharp wind came out of nowhere, and the trio of witches yelped as stinging gravel sprayed their faces. Hugo stared, shocked that it had worked. The witchling at his side grabbed his hand, crying, "Come on!" She dragged him through the gate that led to the swamps. Behind them, shouts rang out as the other three gave chase. Stuffing the medallion in his pocket, Hugo broke into a run, trying to keep up with the witchling. She ran like a Shankara wolf was nipping at her heels. After a few minutes, the shouts of their pursuers faded, and the witchling drew to a halt. "Enough," she panted. "I can't run anymore." Hugo put his hands on his knees, chest heaving as he caught his breath. The jukeberry trees were long gone, replaced by a canopy of gnarled branches and boggy ground. Black-winged shrieks flew overhead, diving and twisting as they hunted mice. "Are you crazy?" the witchling said, turning to yell at him. "You used magic on a witch. She could have blasted you to bits." Hugo calmly wiped his glasses and put them back in place. "You have a point. My brother Eminor says curiosity can kill a cat, and I'm beginning to see how." She gaped at him a moment and then folded her arms. "Are you always so honest?" He nodded. "I can't help it. I'm a scientist. At least, I want to be one someday." "Well, Hugo Suppermill, I'm Abigail Tarkana, and we're lost. I hope you know your way out of here." "I think it's this way," he said, pointing at a faint glow of morning sun in a break in the trees. They began to walk, hopping over the worst of the bogs. Excitement gripped Hugo. He had a real live Tarkana witch to interview. Finally, he could get answers to his long list of questions. "Is it confusing that every witch has the same last name?" he asked. "No, our coven is our family. Besides, all great witches are known by their first name. Catriona was the greatest of them all. She was my ancestor, and someday I'm going to be as powerful as she was." Hugo frowned. "Then how come you didn't use magic to defend yourself?" Abigail shrugged. "Against Endera? She's not worth it." But she looked away as she said it. Hugo stopped to peer closely at her. "You're lying," which means his brain ticked over the facts and arrived at the only logical conclusion. "You don't have any magic, do you?" "Do so?" But 2 splotches of red spotted her cheeks. "Then prove it." Hugo pulled out his journal from his back pocket. He slid out his pencil, licking the tip with his tongue. "Observation number 7. Abigail Tarkana uses magic." Abigail's hands clenched at her sides. "You don't want to make me mad." "Okay," Hugo said, pencil poised over the paper. "Go ahead then." She raised her fists, waving them at him. "Watch out, Hugo Suppermill, or so help me, I will zap you where you stand." He blinked. Duly warned, still waiting. She threw her hands forward. Hugo cringed, but that was nothing. Zippo, not a hint of the crackling green witchfire Endera had used on him. Her face fell. "Who am I kidding? I don't have a drop of magic. I've been 9 for months. That's when witches are supposed to get their first set of powers. But so far, nothing's happened." She looked at him with frightened eyes. "What if I'm a glitch witch?" Hugo frowned. "Glitch witch? What's that?" "A witch who never gets her magic. Old Nan back at the creche never got more than a smidgen of magic, barely enough to boil water." "I'm sure your magic will come in when you're ready." "Well, it had better come soon. We have our first exam in spectacular spells next week. If I can't call on my witchfire, Madame Marisa will fail me. Do you know what they do to witches who fail?" Before Hugo could answer, a snuffling snort came from the shadows, followed by a sharp squeal. "What was that?" Abigail gulped out, grabbing his arm. I'm not sure, but logically speaking, it could be a Sneevil." Sneevils were Hugo's least favorite creature. The size of an overgrown pig, they had long curved tusks, sharp enough to run right through a grown man. Then, logically speaking, we should run, Abigail said. Oh, and that's the end of the chapter. All right, very cool. So, guys, we got to meet another character in this chapter. His name is Hugo Suppermill, and he's one of the point of view characters, which means he gets to tell part of the story from his own point of view. And he's really fascinated by witches, isn't he? He's a scientist now, and so he doesn't really believe in all that mumbo jumbo until he begins to see it for himself when his brother Eminor plays some tricks on him, and he becomes fascinated with it. And so he interrupts the little argument that Abigail's having with Indera, right? And he draws out his medallion. Now, the medallion is like a necklace that he wears around his neck. And the Balfins, that's what he is. The Balfins, they are like a race of people in this magical realm that work alongside the witches. And what the witches do is they give them a little bit of their magic and they store it in these medallions. And the Balfins can actually call on that magic, even though they don't have magic themselves. So Hugo pulls out the medallion that he took from his brother, which is probably going to make his brother mad at him, and he waves it in the air, but he's not really sure what to do, right, until he thinks about, oh, I've got to say a spell. And so he says, Fine Quinta Ventimus, right, and all of a sudden this big wind blows up and it creates a distraction long enough for them to run away. And then we get to the really important part. They're out in the swamps, right? And Hugo says, why didn't you use magic, right? And Abigail tries to lie and tries to pretend like she's fine and she has magic. But we discover the most important thing, right, so far about Abigail. She doesn't have her magic and she's a witchling. What is a witch without magic? Well, they call them glitch witches. And I don't think that's something that she really wants to be. So she's really kind of got a little bit of a problem here, right? Because she doesn't have any magic. So I can't wait to find out what happens next. That will be tomorrow in chapter 4, all right? So in the meantime, guys, what can you do? Go click the link in the description of the video, all right? And you'll find worksheets that you guys can be doing. You can send them in to me via email, or you can mail them to me. All the information is on the worksheets. You can stay in touch. Leave me some comments and let me know that you were here today. I'll be giving away some free copies of The Blue Witch. If you guys leave some comments for me, I'll pick some of them and send some free copies of The Blue Witch to them. All right, guys? All right, we'll see you back here tomorrow, all right? In the meantime, stay well, stay healthy, stay happy, wash your hands a lot, go outside to play when you can, and otherwise, we'll see you back here tomorrow, all right? Alane out.